Should pass out the study guide on Friday since we got quiz next week. Okay, so we have a red light. Remember, there's two red lights. First, if you have a square root. Second is if you have a variable in your denominator. In this example, we have a square root. So whenever you see a square root, focus on what's under the square root, which in this case is this. This 2 in front has nothing to do with the domain. You can cross out that 2. It's only what's underneath the square root. So that has to be positive, which means it has to be greater than or equal to 0. Positive numbers are greater than 0. Solve that for x. So go ahead and solve that inequality for x and write your answer in interval notation. Everything we do is in interval notation. So we got to add the 4. And then when we divide by a negative, what do we do with our inequality? So it becomes x is less than or equal to -4/3. Remember that negative could be anywhere in the fraction. It doesn't have to stay with the 3. It could be anywhere as long as it's in the fraction. Because that's less than, that means that the interval starts at -infinity and it ends at -4/3. And that would get a bracket. This is the domain that I will be looking for next week when you take your quiz. That's the domain. Any questions about that? And if you were absent when we talked about it, I put the cutouts by the window and there's glue sticks and stuff over there too. All right, so now let's talk about operations. So finding the value. Go ahead and copy down this example 1. So I'll give you a minute to copy it down. This is f of x. And we have to find both of these. All right, so for this one, this is our function. And what this is saying is we're going to take this x here represents our input. And we're putting in different inputs. So we have 3 times, and this is how they put it in the notes that you took on Friday, which is why I picked that video. We're just changing the different inputs. For the first one, the input is a 2. And for this one, we can very simply type this in our calculator. Just like so. So go ahead, type that in, see what you get. And then I like to do it without a calculator. 3 times 4. All right, who got 9? Did you get 9? All right, so that would be your answer to part A. For part B, though, our input is an expression. So our answer won't be a number. So we have 3 times, and now I'm going to just rewrite this again. But this time my input is x minus 2. So here is the biggest mistake and this is a test question next week. The biggest mistake is in squaring the x minus 2. This is what you don't do. You don't say that this equals x squared plus 4. That is not right. You don't distribute an exponent like that. To figure out what x minus 2 squared is, you can FOIL it. You can make a box. You have to multiply x minus 2 times x minus 2. So go ahead and do that. Off to the side somewhere. And I'm not going to actually fill it in, but take about 60 seconds and multiply that. Again, I don't care if you use a box. I don't care if you FOIL. I don't care if you use distributive method. Whichever way you want to do that, you have to multiply that out fully. So when you multiply that out, you should get x squared minus 4x plus 4. Who had that? Now we got to distribute. The first parentheses, we're going to multiply by 3. The second one, we're multiplying by a negative 2. So 3x squared minus 12x plus 12 minus 2x plus 4 plus 1. And then your last step would be to combine your like terms. So these are like terms. Go ahead and add that together. And then these are like terms. (12 plus 4 plus 1, 16, 17). All right, any questions about how we work through that? All right, next example. So same one, same function, but now we have 2 different inputs again. So for question C, my input is a 2x. So we're going to put our 2x here and here. You always follow order of operations. So you would not multiply 3 times 2 first and get 6. You do your exponent first. 2 squared. So when we take our 2 squared, 2x squared, we get 4x squared. And then we multiply. So we get 12x squared minus 4x plus 1. None of these are like terms, so that would be your answer. And for the last one, D, we put in our x plus h. This is an introduction to calculus for those of you who might be taking it in college or next year. But for the x plus h, again, you're going to make your box. Multiply x plus h times x plus h. And let's fill this in together. So x plus h times x plus h. You would have x squared, hx, hx, and h squared. These are like terms. What do you think you get when you add these together? Nope. 2hx, yeah, because you have two hx's. All right, so we have our 3. So that would be x squared plus 2hx plus h squared, then minus 2, h plus x plus 1. Go ahead and distribute. For the first one, you have to multiply it by 3. The second one, you're multiplying by negative 2. So that would be 3x squared plus 6hx plus 3h squared minus 2x minus 2h plus 1. You can just put it on my desk. Are any of these like terms? In order for it to be like terms, you would have to have the same variable with the same exponents. You can't add together an x squared and an x. They're not friends. They don't like each other. So this would be your final answer and you would be done. All right, any questions about these 4 before we move on to operations? Okay. Oh, no, we got to do these 2. Sorry. E and F. Let me explain the difference between E and F. They look similar, but they're not the same. They're similar, but not the same. When you put your negative on the outside versus putting it on the inside. For this first one, this is telling you to multiply the entire function by negative 1. When you put that on the outside. So what this first one is telling me to do is to take this, that 3x squared minus 2x plus 1, and multiply it by negative 1. That's not the same as changing the input. So go ahead and do that for E. So that would be a negative 3x squared plus 2x minus 1. That would be your answer. But for F, if you see that on the test, that means put the input, change your input to a negative x. So that would be a 3. So let's put our negative x in and simplify it. All right, what do you think this is going to give you? What is negative x times negative x? Negative x times negative x would be x squared. Yep, so you have 3 times x squared, which is just 3x squared. Negative 2 times negative x, what do you think that's going to give you? Positive 2. and a plus 1. See how these are really close together, right? But they're not the same. So that would be your final answer. All right, so now let's get on to example 2. And we probably won't finish it all today, but we'll get close. So we're going to do 4 operations with these exact same functions. So take a minute. Copy down these 2 functions. So we have f of x. This is your f of x function. And this is your g of x function. So I'll give you a minute to copy that down. We're going to add them, subtract them, multiply them, and divide them. So I think your next homework is due Wednesday because we'll be finished with 2.1 today. I think we'll probably still finish it today. Or we might finish it tomorrow. We'll see how time works, how far we can get. We'll try to get through at least the first 4, I mean. So we have to add them. So you're simply adding f of g and g of, you're adding f of x and g of x. So when you see this, this means add f of x plus g of x. That's what that means. So I'm just going to add f of x, which is x squared minus 2x plus 1. And then I'm adding to that g of x, which is 4x minus 3. Go ahead and combine your like terms if you have any. And that's your new function. You're creating a function by adding 2 functions together. So that's going to give you x squared. And when you add these together, that would be a plus 2x. And when you add these together, what do you get? What's 1 and negative 3? Minus 2. This is your f plus g of x function right here. Right there. Let me just highlight this part. All right, there's 2 different ways to do part B. And I'm going to do them both ways so you can decide which way you want to do it on the quiz or test. The first way to find this would be to use this function that you just created in part A. This says use the f plus g function and put a 3 in for the input. That's what this is telling you to do. So the first way to do this would be to use this function that I have that we created and put in a 3. So let's do that. So that means I would have, so it's x squared plus 2 times x minus 2. Go ahead and put a 3 in. And see what you get. So use your calculators, take or not. 3 squared is 9. 9 plus 6 is 15. 15 minus 2 should be 13. Who got 13? Is that what you all got? All right. That's my answer. All right, just 10 more minutes and then we'll end there. But another way to do this, because if we did not have this already, what if the first part, what if we didn't have to create this? All right. There is a way to still get the answer without creating it. What were you going to say, Jim Crow?
We were just going to like put f of x and g of x together, then just take all the x's and put it in by 3.
I think I know what you're saying. But yeah, we would just figure out what f of 3 is and g of 3. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go back to this function here. I want you to put a 3 in this function and a 3 in this function. So if you put a 3 in this function, that would be 3 squared minus 2 times 3 plus 1. See what you get. And then also put it in your g function. So 3 squared minus 2 times 3. Oh, wait a minute. X squared plus 2x minus 2. X squared minus, okay. All right, so let's go ahead and see what do we get for this first one? 4. Who got 4 for this first one? All right, what you get for the second one? 9. So when you add these two numbers together, notice that you still get the same thing because 4 plus 9 is 13. So when you do it on the test, and this will make more sense when you see your study guide. On the test, you may be asked to give me f minus g of x and then f plus g of 2. So in other words, I may not ask you to create the function, so you need to know another way to do it. All right, let's just do 2 more and we'll end there. Let's do subtraction. C and D, and then we'll finish tomorrow. So now you're going to take your 2 functions and subtract them. So you're going to take f of x minus g of x. So if you do f of x, so that would be x squared minus 2x plus 1, and subtract from that g of x. Notice that with the subtraction, I'm using parentheses. And that's because you have to distribute that negative first and then combine your like terms. So we got x squared minus 2x plus 1 minus 4x. So we got to distribute that negative. And then that becomes a plus 3. Now let's combine your like terms. So that would be x squared. And then we're going to add these together. What do you get when you add these together? Negative 6x, and then you're going to add your constants, which would be a plus 4. That's your subtraction function. So for part D, I'm not going to do it both ways again. We're just going to use that function that they gave us, that we created, I mean. So that x squared minus 6x plus 4. Go ahead and put in a 4. (16) minus 24 is negative 8. So who got negative 4? Is it negative 4? Okay. And that would be your final answer. All right, we'll end here, and then tomorrow we'll do multiplication and division. Feel free to use this time to continue working on your homework. That's due on Wednesday. I don't think I have any other announcements.